And there are the clipboards, there's 2 of them, and they're in alphabetical order. So just look for your last name in alphabetical order.
Go ahead and have people come in and be seated, and we'll pass the clipboard around.
We'll go ahead and have parents go ahead and come on in and be seated, and we'll pass the clipboards around so you can sign in once you're seated, but we would like to get started as close on time as we can. We have a lot of people still lined up at the door. So parents, if you can go ahead and come in and be seated, we'll get started here in just a moment. We'll pass the clipboards around to sign in. To remind you, there's refreshments in the back. Those are free of charge. They're not for sale. Help yourself to that.
Welcome to our meeting tonight. I don't know if I should say good afternoon or good evening. We'll kind of call right in the middle. First of all, I want to express our gratitude for you adjusting your schedule and making the time to be here tonight. We're grateful that you're here. First of all, let me introduce myself for those who don't know me. I'm David Peterson, the senior pastor of First Baptist Church, and grateful for our church and school staff. We want to talk about some issues, concerns we have that your teenagers and families may be struggling with. I'll explain more about that in just a moment. But first of all, I'm so grateful I am for some of the men. We have a guest speaker tonight, which Pastor Nichols will introduce just a few moments. But 4 other staff members are going to speak to you very briefly prior to this guest speaker. He's our main speaker tonight. I'm so grateful for Pastor Dave Nichols, administrator, does an outstanding job in our school here. I'm grateful for our athletic director, Scott Long. Great job he's doing. And also our secondary principal, Chad Martin. And also our youth pastor, who's also a Bible teacher in our school, Justin Bloom. Each one of these men truly love your team. They love your kids. And they count it an honor to minister to them and to come alongside you to serve your family. And they love you, they love your kids, and that's our purpose for this meeting tonight. To address some issues, concerns, primarily the concerns of the teenagers being exposed on the internet with their cell phones. First of all, please go ahead and silence your cell phones, please. I had to turn mine off because it always goes off at the wrong time. And I'm grateful for a cell phone. I use mine all the time. I got with me every place I go. It's such a part of the ministry, part of our lives. But there's so much on the internet that our young people have access to through this phone. And I'd like to address some of those issues tonight. And this issue, primary concern, was brought to my attention last year. At the end of last year, my youth pastor came to me, Pastor Bloom, and he says, Pastor Peterson, several of our teens in our school and our church have come to me asking for my help because of their issues of struggling with pornography on their cell phone. And they came to me for help, and so I want you to pray with me about that. And of course, we provided a video series for fathers and sons, which we're going to do again this year, to help those that are struggling with that issue. But it was really brought to my attention this past summer. We took a busload of kids, both from our school and our church, to youth camp this summer for a week-long camp. At camp, they have a lot of fun, but also they have Bible teaching there. And every night they come before us and preaching of God's Word. And the preacher trying to, first of all, if the kids are not saved, come to Christ the Savior. But the majority of them are saved, but trying to challenge them, encourage them to dedicate their life to serve the Lord and please them with their lives. And so every session they had, they always get an invitation at the end of the preaching, inviting the kids to come forward and make decisions for Christ. And every teenager came forward, we met with a counselor, talked about why they were coming, and they filled out a decision card. And probably 30 or 40 decision cards were sent to me as the pastor of the teenagers who walked forward to make a decision for Christ. And there were many different issues, but you know the number one issue was? It was issues of our teenagers struggling with pornography. And not only the guys, which surprised me, many girls struggle with addiction to pornography. And they came forward wanting help. And that's one of the issues we'll be addressing tonight, and our guest speaker will deal with that. The dangers our teenagers are exposed to on this right here. And so it's my desire, before I have a word of prayer, is that you will give your undivided attention. We're here to help. Now, I know this is not the best time of the day to do this. Many of you are probably tired, you're hungry, somebody hadn't had time to eat. And so I hope you'll see our hearts. We have a heart desire to be a blessing to your family, help you, especially your kids. So please, bear with us that. And so I hope you'll catch that from us tonight. So let's have a word of prayer, then I'll turn it over to our secondary principal, Chad Martin. Dear Father in heaven, I thank you for each parent, each family represented here tonight. And Father, I pray they will see our hearts as wanting and desiring to be a help and come alongside them and raise them as teenagers. Many of our teenagers are struggling over the issues they're exposed to through the cell phone. And I pray, Father, that the parents will give their undivided attention and live clearly and see maybe some of these issues might be a struggle in their own hearts, in their own families, and their own teenagers. So, Father, please bless tonight. Use it to strengthen every home represented tonight. Bless in Christ's name. Amen. At this time, I'd like to have come forward our secondary principal, Chad Martin.
Thank you. I'm Chad Martin, secondary principal, and I just want to take this chance just to kind of echo what Pastor said. I really hope that you guys understand our heart here for tonight. I've already heard some parents complain, and like he said, I know it's dinner time, and I know you're angry, but we're burdened for your children. We've seen them struggle with some things that keep us up at night, things that we're in prayer about, things that we're burdened about. So I really hope you guys get the heart behind it. Too often as parents, you guys see demerits coming home and you don't really get to see the heart behind it. So I wanted to take just a couple minutes just to kind of talk about that. When we do give out demerits, what that is our notification to you. It's our way of partnering with you and to notify you of sometimes something just so simple like, hey, your child forgot their book today. Something like that. And if he continues to forget his book, it may hurt him academically. Or your child is talking again. And if he continues to talk, it may hurt him academically and others academically. It's really a notification tool for you guys as parents. It is not us saying your child is evil, is a sinner. The Bible does a good job of that. You don't need our help there. And it's not the end of the world. Okay, there's two extremes. Some parents see so many demerits that they just ignore them flat out, and they don't do anything about it. They just sign in and let it go. Some, you'll see one demerit and freak out and think it's the end of the world. But those don't go on a transcript. They're not on a permanent record. So they're not either of those two things. It's really just things that we put in place that we feel like will help the school academically. And when you toured the campus, you probably have seen some things that you liked about the school, whether it's the behavior of the students or something in that respect. And that doesn't happen by accident. And the teachers do have a heart for your students. They're doing what we've asked them to do, so please give them the benefit of the doubt. We practice the Matthew 8 principle of going to the teacher first, and then if it needs to come up to me and then to Mr. Nichols or whatever. But you guys have been doing a really good job this year with going to the teachers, and I appreciate that. But my main goal here tonight, guys, is just that you get to see our heart. Oftentimes, it could just be this list of rules, but we do love your children and we do care about them. That's all I wanted to say. I'll bring up Coach Wong, and Coach Wong is going to say some things about sports, and I'll turn it over to him. Thank you, Coach.
Well, good evening. Thanks for letting me be a part of this evening. First and foremost, again, echoing what Mr. Martin said, Pastor, we love your kids, and we love you as families, and we want to do everything we can to support y'all, and that's what we're here for. We're here to support you and partner with you in making sure that not only do we have great kids, and we have great kids here at our school, but we even help them be better godly kids. And from my perspective as an athletic director, mine's a little different. I see them in sports. I see them from 3 o'clock on into the evening times and games. And for the most part, we have great kids. And they have great hearts for the Lord. Some things that I see that probably we could work on a little bit better. One of the things I wrote down was Christian character. And for the most part, we have great Christian character. I have many schools talk to me on many occasions about how well our kids behave and their Christ-like example. But what I'm seeing a lot, what I've been burdened by, is some of the students that we deal with, and it's not all of them, but some of them have this down really well. You know what I'm talking about? You know, watch a sporting game and score a touchdown. And they get paid millions of dollars to do that. But it's all about me, right? And one of the things that I see sometimes that these young people are struggling with, these athletes, is they see that, and it's all about them. And we really have to fight ourselves and think about esteeming others higher than ourselves, which is a Bible verse that I have written down. And we just need to make sure that we're doing that. And I tell these kids sometimes in classes, I said, we really have look at me down really well. Look at what I did. Look how good I am. And the whole glory thing. But we struggle with being humble. And if we're not going to be humble, and we're always going to lift ourselves up, as we know, the more self we get involved in our life, the less and less we have the Lord taking over in our lives. There's a statement I've heard many times, let go and let God, right? So we have to let go of ourselves and understand that our Christian character needs to be that exemplifies and glorifies the Lord and not ourselves. Some of the things that I mentioned too with a lot of our kids, and even with our parents and partnering with you, sometimes we think of other schools and a couple different things comes to mind. One thing is we'll have schools that, again, will compliment us on our behavior and tell us how well we've been behaved and how Christ-like we are. And that's just a wonderful blessing. That's a testament to you and to your young people for their behaviors. But a lot of times, too, the other school side comes up that we play, and we have to play that school again. They're fill in the blank. And the thing is that we're not a perfect school. We're not a perfect athletic program. And there are some schools that we play that struggle with some behaviors and attitudes. But the thing about it is that are we going to spend our time focusing on their behaviors and how bad they are and how un-Christ-like they are? Or could we focus on maybe they need help and maybe we should pray for them and understand that maybe they're struggling with something like maybe we're struggling with something, and have that mindset of we're going to love the other schools and pray for them and have that, again, not self, but esteeming others higher than ourselves. The other thing I just real quick was just responsibilities athletically. And what I see in our athletics, and this may be transitioning over to the school as well, I don't see a lot of our older students that are in here tonight, some of our high school, I haven't been seeing that mentoring going on where we've had that in the past. In the past, we've had some of our juniors and seniors really take some of our junior high kids under their wing and kind of teach them the way of athletics and how to handle those things of not focusing on self. And I'd really like to see us get back to that point. But again, we can't be there if we're so focused on us that we can't see that we can be a mentor to help others. And the Bible talks about teaching things the way that they're supposed to be taught and then passing that along to other people. You juniors and seniors, you've been at the school for a while, you've learned these behaviors. We're just asking that, if you can, to pray about it. Ask the Lord how you can be a mentor to one of these junior high kids that may need your help and may be struggling with self. And I think everything that we're kind of talking about tonight and just kind of segues into it is the issues that we're dealing with and the issue that we're going to be talking about. It's a self issue. It's, well, this is what I want. This is how I feel. This is how I'm going to live my life. But we have to understand that the Bible may have something different for us. And we need to ultimately, this is our foundation, and understand that just because I want it, it may not line up with God's word. And if it doesn't, then I shouldn't want it. So again, just being Christ-like and their attitudes, and we've done a great job with that, and just maybe being humble, some things that I'm seeing, and just responsibilities, not with just materials, shoes, cleats, soccer boys, those kind of things, those are great too, but just being responsible as being a mentor for some of our younger junior high kids that may need that. We're here tonight, like everybody else says, because honestly, we love you and we love your kids. If we didn't, we wouldn't be taking our time to be saying this to you. And are we perfect? No, we're not. Do we fall? We do. But we do love your kids and we love you, and we want the best for them, and we want to try to equip them to be godly in a world that honestly right now is very challenging and has turned their back on the Lord. And we want our kids and you as a family to all partner with us to help bring us back to a situation where we're being even more godly and better serving the Lord. So that's all I have from an athletic perspective. I believe Pastor Dave Nichols is coming up now to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Long. The concept of this meeting came up probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. Several staff members in our school have been coming to me, and then between Pastor Bloom and our pastoral staff, we're just talking about several things we are seeing in our teenagers, and we just really wanted to share our hearts with you as parents. Our desire is for God's best for them, and the reality of the day is our mission statement says that we're here to assist parents, and we're here to assist you. That's what we're here for. Our mission statement says to assist parents in their God-given responsibilities of educating their children through godly character and academic excellence. And that's just the first half of our mission statement, but it is our heart's desire to help you. I've had parents come to me several times in the last couple of years. What can I do? I don't know what to do. And have you ever heard the saying, rules without relationship breeds rebellion? Sometimes we as parents, and sometimes we as a school, we've got rules, but if we don't have that relationship, our young people tend to want to rebel against it. Why? Because they're sinners. They have that sinful human nature, just like you and I do. But I would encourage you, parents, if you're struggling with your teenager right now, and they just seem to be bucking up against you and those sort of things, build more of a relationship with them. How do you do that? Spend time with them. They just need time. Go do what they want to do. Don't do what you want to do. Go do what they want to do. Spend some time with them. Dads, take your daughters out on a date. Go do something fun that they want to do. One of the most painful things for me in the world was to sit down with some of my teenage boys and play video games with them. I hate playing video games. I'm no good at them. I think they're a waste of time. But to sit down with one of my sons and play a video game with them was me doing something he wanted to do, okay? That's just a sample. But I would encourage you parents, if you feel like you're kind of losing touch and they're slipping away, don't feel like you're alone. That happens. But just take that as a burden to your soul to just build a relationship with your teenagers. They may act like they're too cool for mom and dad, but they enjoy it and they need time with you. If your career has you too busy to do that, change something before it's too late. My kids are all grown now. I don't have any in school anymore, and I miss it. I miss seeing my kids out on the ball court and at the ball field. It's just, life's a vapor. It goes quick. Do what you need to now to spend time with your kids. It has already been said, we do love your kids. There are times, parents, when something happens at school and we call, we ask for your help with it, or we shoot the email or the text, and there's times where we just have to ask you to trust us on this one. If a parent says a student did something in class and the student comes home with a different story, please remember that teacher has no skin in the game. That teacher is just sharing an issue that he's trying to help that child develop godly character in. Your student doesn't want to get in trouble. They don't want to lose a privilege. They don't want to have punishment. So their side of the story, just because we're all sinners, might not be the same as the teacher's side of the story. Please trust us. We're not here to make your child's life miserable. We're here to help them develop godly character. And we're working together. We're here to assist you. I'm going to share a story, and don't worry if it's you, because it's happened to me at least 10 times already this year, so I'm not singling anyone out. I've had parents where I have felt bad. I'm like, hey, can you get your son to get his hair cut? It's just not quite within school rules right now. And I've had at least 10 parents say, oh, good, thank you for telling him to do that. I've been trying to get him to do it. Parents, please don't try to get them to do it. Help teach them the responsibility of honoring authority. Because what happens is you as parents let it go, and it's not a big deal, it's just a haircut, okay? It might be a big deal to him at 13 or 14 years old. But when you as parents don't see the school rule as, okay, we're signed up here, we agreed to abide by the school rules, so this is what we need to do, so let's get a haircut. That's all you have to do. But what happens sometimes is, oh, well, you know, I might let you have it, but you know that mean old school, they're making you get it cut. You know what that does? That teaches our children that mean old Christian school doesn't like them. And there are some students that graduate from high school and they don't want anything to do with Christian schools. There's people that don't want to go to church anymore because they saw their Christian school or their church with rules and their parents didn't respond the right way to those rules. Parents, we need you to uphold the authority. We uphold your authority at home. If we have a student that tells us, well, my mom says I have to do this, you will not hear one of our staff members say, oh, well, that's dumb. Why did she make you do that? No, we support you. And so we really need to partner with you and have you support us as well. That would help so much. And the haircut thing is just a silly illustration of that. But, you know, whether it's a dress code thing or a homework thing or whatever, please help us with that. We know that we are a conservative Christian school. We are that way on purpose. We know that. And you know, without sounding, you know, brash, we are not the best fit for everyone. If your student hates the school and doesn't want to be here, that's okay. They can go someplace else, okay? So please work with us. If you disagree with how we run the school, you don't have to come. It's not compulsory attendance. They can attend elsewhere. I do have some door prizes to give out at the end, so in the midst of the negative, you got some positive coming, okay? Okay? Mr. Long already mentioned the fact that we have good kids. We have good kids here. I'll say this, our high school students are awesome young people. Our junior hires are still kind of learning their way. We get that, okay? Right, high schoolers? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they'll decide which way they want to go. We have more selective enrollment in high school. I say this every year when we're together for our open house, but we did that more on video this year. Don't believe everything your kids say about us, and we won't believe everything they tell us about you. Honestly, some of the things they tell us about you, my goodness, okay. Have you ever seen your student be a little sneaky? That happens. We've had to make some decisions this year. We said no to smart watches this year. And because we had people using them in classrooms for things they shouldn't have been using them for. It is so prevalent nowadays, students trying to cheat. And honestly, we have good students here, and yet there's still some students that try to cheat, whether it be through technology or other things. We have even had parents secure tests from the test producers and help their children study from the actual tests. We've had students in various grades show up and look at the test and they say, well, this isn't the right test. Okay, so just so you know, parents, we quit using the producer's tests. We have a combination of some of them, we rewrite some of them, because all these good Christian kids and some of these good Christian parents have learned how to cheat. And so, honestly, that's something we've been facing. And so we're working hard to do that. Help your young people realize that it's important not to do those kind of things. We are combating a culture. And when I think of those things that we worry about happening in America, they are happening. This culture that we're living in today, for the most part, has turned its back on God. And it is bombarding us, it's bombarding our children. I've heard it said that what used to slither down back alleys now parades itself down Main Street. And that's what our children are growing up with. We've got to protect them. We've got to teach them how to think right, to think biblically about those things. And we've got to equip them to fight those battles, not just to give in to the culture that's bombarding them every day. We had a speaker in our church last week, Dr. Virgil Bruground from Trinidad, and he said this: 90% of his counseling issues are because of cell phones. Dr. Erwin Lutzer, who is the pastor emeritus at Moody Church, he said the cell phone in your teenager's hand will do more to shape his or her worldview than an hour in church and Sunday school. And what's bombarding our children, unfortunately, they don't have to go far to get anymore. And so we did invite a special speaker. Our special speaker tonight is Mr. Doug Crawford. He is with Protect Young Eyes, and he is going to come and share a presentation with you about some of the dangers in the digital arena. And then Pastor Bloom will be closing with a few of his thoughts and his heart for your young people as our youth pastor. And then I have some door prizes, okay? So stick with us, Mr. Doug Crawford.
All right, this is not the time for you to take a nap, all right? And I noticed that you all are good Baptists and you started filling the room from the back to the front. Again, I'm an ordained Baptist pastor. I was a pastor for 15 years in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm the son of a Baptist pastor who's been in the same church for 41 years, and the grandson of a Baptist systematic and historical theology professor at a seminary in Grand Rapids for 40 years. I know the games, and I know that y'all are a good back row Baptist. I'm so glad that I can't see you because of the spotlight, all right? So my name is Doug Crawford, and it's a pleasure to be with you. A year and a half ago, I moved from Grand Rapids to Southwest Florida. I actually live in Venice, and so I had to make just a little bit of a drive up here to come and visit and to spend time with you. I also am a husband and a father. My wife Rose and I are high school sweethearts. I was a senior, she was a sophomore when we started dating, and the only reason why I waited till she was a sophomore is because she couldn't date till she was 16, and I took her out for her 16th birthday. And my wife and I have known each other our entire lives, and we grew up in the church with each other, and over the 18 years that we have been married, we have been able to add to our family. And on the far left side is my son-in-law, Marcel, and his hands are placed against my soon-to-be grandchild coming in April, super excited. And that's my daughter, Cheyenne. And the young man that I'm holding, that is Silas, he's 3 years old. And then my wife, Rose, and then the young man in front of my wife is JD, Joshua Douglas. And he's 6 years old. The young man next to my wife is my son, Ryan. And the lady on the far right used to be Ryan's girlfriend, but I don't have an updated family photo. Her name is Libby, and she's a sweetheart. Just not Ryan's sweetheart any longer. All right? They live in Michigan, I live in Florida, when you get family photos. So the next one will happen when we go up for Christmas and we'll get to see them. As an organization, we were founded in 2015, and we come alongside families and churches and schools to help you create safer digital spaces with trust, tips, and training. We do this through a variety of platforms. We have an app called the Protect app. If you search the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, Protect Young Eyes, you'll see the app that we have created. We have our download newsletter, which is a monthly newsletter. We have a PYE Minute, which is 60-second radio segments that we partnered with a Christian radio station in Southwest Michigan. And there are about 50 or so. You can register and get those sent to your inbox. We do live and virtual presentations. How many of you have ever heard of Protect Young Eyes before I showed up tonight? All right, I'm assuming that all your hands are raised because, again, I can't see you. No, that's all right. Go to our website, protectyoungeyes.com. I saw maybe a half dozen to a dozen of you. Protectyoungeyes.com. If you want to know how to set up parental controls on any sort of smart device, use our website. Want to know what is going on in any of the top 100 apps that we have written app reviews for? Go to Protect Young Eyes. If you want to read an active blog, go to Protect Young Eyes. If you want to learn about the digital citizenship of your families, go to protectyoungeyes.com. We have so much free resources that we want to be able to come alongside and help you, because we as digital foreigners are raising digital natives, and we want our kids to, again, grow up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Not only do we try to help on the grassroots level with presentations like this on our website, but we also have it invited into the political world. We partnered with the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, and our work in bringing about the Earn It Act earned us the Dignity Defense Alert Award in August of 2020. We have, Because of time, I'm not going to show you the video, but if you go to our YouTube channel, Protect Young Eyes, search that on YouTube, and you go and you look, we have Chris, that's our founder and CEO in the center there, sitting in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee in July 2019. There's a 6-minute testimony video that that we have posted to YouTube that you can watch, where it kind of gives what we're seeing, what we believe that apps and app companies can be doing better to protect our kids. They know they are culpable, and yet they aren't doing enough about it. And we want to help protect your children as much as we can. And so the laws that were written that govern most of it were written in the late 1990s to early 2000s. And if you think that the Apple iPhone didn't come out until 2007, but most of the internet protecting laws were written before it was created, just imagine how much the internet has changed since AOL ruled the day. Right? And so we need to be aware of these things, and so we're advocating for you in Washington, D.C. We helped craft legislation that went before the governor of the state of Utah that was signed and passed a bill there. And so we're working tirelessly to help you and to create a safer environment for our families and our kids. So again, this is the video, but we're not going to play it because of time. What we are seeing, though, when it comes to the broader, this inverted responsibility triangle, we are seeing that those that technology influences or has the greatest impact have the least ability to do anything about it. And those that have some of the least amount of impact on them have the greatest ability to do something about it. And we're trying to take all of these things, and our kids are living in an environment where they are struggling, admittedly struggling. But where's their voice? They can speak up, they can create a YouTube channel, they can have followers on Instagram, they can do TikTok, they can do whatever they want, they can try to create clubs and all these things and try to get in front of people that have the ability. But the impact is so incredible. We need to change this triangle here. So, we 127 responses through a survey that was sent to you this week, and I want just to quickly review them before we get into the rest of our content. Asking the question, what grade are you in? The majority are in high school. All right? Half and half gender-wise. Do you have a smartphone? 88% of the 7th and 12th graders who responded said yes. 12% said no. The question, I do a good job managing my screen time. Almost 2/3 saying yes, over 1/3 saying no. Technology makes my friendships better. 65 or 64% saying yes. 17% saying no, and then another 18% saying it doesn't apply because I don't have a phone, so I don't have the technology to know the difference. My smartphone doesn't really have any negative impact on my life. Over 50% said yes, 35% said no, and another 10% said, I don't have a smartphone, doesn't apply. Next, someone I don't know has tried to talk to me online. 2/3 said yes, 1/3 said no. This is where we get into the stuff of the, are you serious, mom and dad? All right, someone I don't know has tried to talk to me online. 65.6% said yes, 34.4% said no. I keep my smartphone next to me while I sleep. Over half said yes. I have stayed up all night using my phone at least once. And then we say, y'all are crazy, all right? 45% yes, just over 54% say no. Again, this isn't national studies, this is just our student population here. And again, there's no finger pointing as a result of this. This is information gathering. That's all that I want to do for parents to help them understand what the kind of environment it is. Because I know students, the fact that you did this, props to you. There's a reason we keep it anonymous. I don't know who said what. All right? I don't want to know who said what. We wanted to give you the freedom to be able to answer honestly. And again, the point of this is to raise awareness and understanding. Oh, so I struggle with anxious feelings. Almost 50-50. Answer this a simple yes or no. There are technology rules in my house. 3/4 said yes, 1/4 of you said no. All right? Technology rules in my house are too strict. This is probably the one that I was most surprised by because the 91% is saying no. 8.9% say yes, they're way too strict. So, way to find the middle of the ground, parents. I mean, that's way to go. Like, and students, honestly, I was surprised by this, but I'm pleased by, maybe you're thinking, my mom and dad are gonna know how I answer this, so I gotta make sure, and whatever drove you to answer this, just know that I appreciate your honesty in this. Kids sharing inappropriate pictures of each other is a problem at the school. A third say yes. Have you ever seen someone being bullied online? Half say yes, half say no. Have you been the victim of online bullying of any kind? Almost 90% no, 11% yes. I sometimes look for inappropriate things online. 87 no, 13 yes. It's easy to find inappropriate things online even while doing homework. 42% say yes, 58% say no. I might be addicted to gaming. 30% say affirmative. All right? 70% saying no. Now, I show you all of this because as parents, it is our responsibility to be the chief disciplers of our children. To train up our children the way they should go so when they're old, they won't depart from it. Now, you can bring along church, you can bring along Christian school, you can bring along godly aunts and uncles and neighbors and cousins and all that stuff, but mom and dad, we cannot pass the buck of discipleship on to anyone else. God has given them to us, and we have the privilege of raising up kids. I've already grown a couple of my kids out of the house, and it is a joy to be able to see them loving the Lord, serving the Lord, and there were days that I wondered if they were even going to make it. Some of you have already graduated kids out of the house, and you're wrapping up the last few. I already did that, and then I get to start over, and with JD and Silas. And so, again, this is our call. Now you say, yeah, okay, Doug, I get it. Then what do we do about it? So you go and you search parental controls on your app store, and like, okay, this is going to be how we find out what we're going to do. And then you find out, wait a minute, there's like 700 million responses and results to my search. How do I know what to do? We need to realize that our kids are always going to know more than us when it comes to technology. They're always going to find ways to get around it. You got around the restrictions when you were a kid. Just because the opportunities have changed doesn't mean that our sinful hearts haven't. And so they're going to find a way to get around it. And then parental controls alone don't work. Again, you cannot pass off your responsibility as a mom and dad to anyone or anything else. And that's why parenting is so hard. And I'm with you in that. I'm with you in that. So our current reality here, when we look at the numbers, these are global. The top 4 apps in the United States are Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. In fact, we do an entire hour-and-a-half presentation on this alone. But we look at Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Then we look at their global numbers, all right? WeChat and others are more popular outside the United States, but when we're looking at just the top 4 of the United States and then extrapolating out to their global numbers, we have 500 million people use Snapchat every month. 1 billion use TikTok, 1 billion use Instagram, and 2 billion use YouTube every month. That's their monthly average users, all right? So again, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And the crazy thing is, none of these companies existed 12 years ago. Yet, in fact, TikTok, I think it's like 2016-ish. So when we look at these, within the last 5 years, they've already have 1 billion customers. Think of the market penetration of this technology. It's incredible. We just need to realize that this is what we're up against. This isn't out of your student population, but again, we asked this of another school, hey, what is your creepers try to reach out to you? And 3rd through 8th grade, this was an elementary middle school that we asked these questions. 3rd and 8th graders, they average out to be about 27% of 3rd through 8th graders say creepers tried reaching out to them. And so, COVID didn't help. Back in the state of Utah, numbers were up 50% for predatory activity since COVID started. And that's not to place blame on any app platform. But we need to realize that where the kids are is where the predators are. That's how it's always been. Your parents probably said if you're ever at the park or the playground and there's a van that has no windows and giving away cookies or puppies or ice cream, don't go talk to them, right? We used to judge people by what they looked like. We can't do that anymore. So the game of getting access to children hasn't changed, just the way predators go about it has. And there's greater access than ever before. Apps with a chat feature will always have predatory activity. Roblox, Fitbit, Bible app, it doesn't matter. If there's a way for you to chat with another user, there will be predatory activity. We just need to accept that as fact. Again, we are not an anti-technology company. You're going to hear us say that if you're going to say, go ahead, you better prep your kids for it. That's all. We just need to be aware of what it is that we're dealing with. And many times, we as parents can suffer from the NMK virus. And you're like, is that another variation of COVID? No, it's not. Hopefully we're done with those. I don't know. NMK, not my kid. My kid wouldn't do that. My kid doesn't look at that stuff. If somebody talked to my kid, they would come and talk to me. If my kid saw something inappropriate, they would come and talk to me. My kid wouldn't do that. We just need to work from a position that it will most likely happen that our kids, at some point in their online life, is that something that they don't know, reach out to them. And sometime in their online life, they're going to see content that would be deemed inappropriate or possibly even sinful in their activities. We need to recognize that, all right? And again, the problem is our technology almost has like a omniscient character to it, because it is, in fact, we learned that with TikTok, within 37 minutes of you pausing on this was the testing that we did, going through, we paused on a mental health video on TikTok. In less than an hour, almost 90% of what was coming through on TikTok had to relate with mental health. It is paying attention to every moment. How long do you pause? It pays attention to that. We just need to be aware that they are constantly growing in our understanding. And I want you to hear, this is the one video that we're going to show tonight. This is Sean Parker, the founding president of Facebook. He's no longer with Facebook. Facebook is in the news a lot lately. And if you haven't read about their rebranding of Meta and their goal of creating a metaverse, where the goal of it is to you no longer to have to communicate and interact with people physically, but you can fulfill all of your relational needs virtually. And what we need to realize is that God created us as relational beings, and we need the togetherness part of this. This is why we are not all the eye or all the shoe, all the foot, all the ear. We are all different parts of the body because we need one another. I want you to hear from Sean Parker, and I want you to pay attention to the title he gives himself in this video. Taken from, if you haven't watched Netflix's documentary, The Social Dilemma, go ahead and watch it. We have better ones for you to watch. I highly recommend it. This kind of acts like a digital virtual confessional booth of the people who created the like button and other things and said, this is what we did, we feel really bad about it, but there's really no, okay, so this is what you do. There's no call to action at the end of it. It's just like, we messed up. And that's kind of all that it is, but at least they got it off their chest. I still recommend you watch it, but this isn't the one you're going to go to if you want to kind of know how do we navigate this with our kids.
Entrepreneur Sean Parker says he's not sure how much Facebook is benefiting society. Parker was the founding president of Facebook when the company started over a decade ago. He recently made some very jarring comments about social media, exploiting the vulnerabilities in human psychology during a conversation with Axios. Here's what he had to say.
You know, if the thought process that went into building these applications, Facebook being the first of them to really understand it, that thought process was all about how do we consume as much of your time and conscious attention as possible. And that means that we need to sort of give you a little dopamine hit every once in a while because someone liked or commented on a photo or a post or whatever. And that's going to get you to contribute more content, and that's going to get you, you know, more likes and comments. And it's a social validation feedback loop that it's like, I mean, it's exactly the kind of thing that that a hacker like myself would come up with, because you're exploiting vulnerability in human psychology. And I think that the inventors, creators, and it's me, it's Mark, it's Kevin Systrom and Instagram, it's all of these people, understood this consciously, and we did it anyway.
All right.
What do you call himself? Come on, class, one more time. What do we call ourselves? What do you call himself? A hacker. And he points to his head. It's a thing a hacker like myself would come up with. They're not hiding. We wanted to create content and a platform that would take as much of your time as possible. So give you the dopamine hit. You've been neurologically hacked. And the numbers are showing. In this past February, the National Center for Health Statistics released a study showing that the overall suicide deaths from 1999 to 2019 increased 32% for all Americans. If you look at just females for a second here, dads, I show you this because we need to be thinking about our daughters. The bottom line is age 10 to 14, and about halfway through the graph is 2007. Again, I say that because that's when the iPhone came out. That's not to say that all 100% of the increase is due to social media and technology, but it is telling. That's all I'm saying. It's a correlation. So we may not be causation, but it's a correlation. So we see that bottom one, 10 to 14-year-olds, and then that next light-colored line is 15 to 24-year-old girls. Look at how that. The only one that really kind of stayed the same is 75 and older. So there you go, Grandma. You've stabilized mentally, and we have much to learn from you. But we need to realize that our daughters need to hear from us that they are beautiful. Our daughters need to hear from us, dads, that they are valuable. Our daughters need to hear from us that their godly character is attractive and celebrated. Because if they're not getting love and affection and attention from mom and dad at home, and especially dads, us to our daughters, they will find it because they are wired to receive it. Gentlemen, we're the same way, and we go after it in other ways as well. So this isn't just a gender thing. But there is something unique about our daughters that they desire that of affirmation and affection from their dads. Parents, we are the primary influencers of our kids. Whether your presence or your absence still has influence. We need to be mindful, engaged, informed, involved in the lives of our kids. And our daughters need to know that they are beautiful, that they are created in the image of God, that they're one for whom Christ died. Their identity and their value could not be higher than it is. No amount of likes and followers and comments are going to change that they are created in the image of God and they're one for whom Christ died. That is the greatest love, the greatest identity. And when I speak to students around the country and I talk to young girls, I talk to middle school and high school girls, and I tell them, you need to know that you are wonderfully and beautifully made. A stranger on a stage saying that brings young ladies to tears because they haven't heard that before. We need to be protecting our sons and our daughters, but protecting their affections. We've been called to do this. So, I would say any questions, but I'm going to save this to the end, all right? Just for a case of time, but just know I do want to hear questions. And I will stay as long as they let me, all right? After we're done, I'll stay here. I usually like to be at least about the second to last person to leave, only followed by the person locking up, all right? I only have to drive an hour and a half home, so I want to be here to answer any questions that I can. Our position at Protect Young Eyes, and this is a strong statement, and I'm okay if you're like, Doug, I'm not quite fully there. We're saying based upon the science and what we're seeing repeated over and over and over again. If you know how the brain develops, it develops from back to front. So the prefrontal cortex is the last part of the brain to develop. This is the decision-making process. This is the discernment part of the brain. And it's the last to develop. All right? We don't think that until you're 15 that your brain is even ready to handle social media. Is that to say that if you're 13, that all 13-year-olds can't handle it? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the odds are against you because your brain is just not wired fully together yet. That's not your fault. It's just how God has created us and designed us and how the brain develops. And kids younger than high school don't need smartphones. They don't. I'm going to show you some options that I think are better. I'm not going to say that you need to get rid of all the things. In fact, I'll say delay is the way. Delaying smartphone, delaying social media, delaying these kinds of things. But for many of you, I realize that that ship has already sailed. You got an upgrade on your smartphone, you gave the old one to your kid. All of their friends have social media, and so you feel, okay, you need to have it as well, because that's the only way that you communicate with your friends. And you're like, okay, Doug, that's great, you can see all these things, but I've already given it to them, now what do I do? So whether you said no, slow, or go, the ubiquity of technology demands that we equip our children with tools and training so they are ready and confident for anything they might encounter online. If you're going to give it to them, you better make sure that they're prepared. We take driver's ed before we give them the keys to the car. The adolescent brain demands that we have more empathy when young people make digital mistakes. Again, the discernment part of their brain isn't fully developed yet. This is why your middle schooler and your high schooler are idiots at times. And this is why you were an idiot when you were their age. It's just how it goes. We have to accept that and give a little empathy to our kids, because we may think that it's hard being a parent in the digital age. Just imagine how difficult it is being a kid in the digital age. When you went to school, the drama at home, you got a break from it. When you went home, the drama at school, you got a break from it. Our kids don't get a break anymore. It's constant. And with half of your kids sleeping with a cell phone next to them at night, it's constant. The power of technology demands that we treat all digital situations with care and caution. Okay, put off certain ones as long as possible. Use multiple layers to protect them. That's fine. You're not going to give your kid, your 13-year-old, a scalpel and say, "Okay, kid, go have fun." You say, "Okay, if you're going to do something with this, here's how you handle it. This is what you do with it." If you're a hunting family, you're not going to give the kid the bow or the shotgun and say, "Okay, have fun." You're going to make certain that they're doing things safely. You're going to prepare them for that. We need the cell phone as the same way. If you're going, at whatever point you're going to give them access to online life, make certain you're preparing them for that. So, we believe that a different approach here, again, is to create digital trust. And this is our digital trust framework. At times, as parents, especially Christian parents, we can tend to be more on this end of the spectrum. All right? Spying is monitoring without your kids' knowledge. That's what we mean by that. I'm not saying you can't monitor your kids' devices, but if you're putting stuff on their devices and they have no idea about it, that's called spying. Okay? So spying, helicopter parents, you're operating from a position of fear, or you want to control every situation and scenario. At some point, they're going to leave your house. So how are you preparing them to say yes to the right things and say no to the wrong things? We need to be mindful of these things. Some of us can go to the end, so that's the annoyance side of it. This is the avoidance side of it. We bury our head in the sand. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And we all had our things growing up. Our kids had, this is just our kids' thing, and that's just what it is. The hard work is done in the middle of building digital trust, and that's what we're going to spend the rest of our time focusing on, these 5 C's. Again, I'm a Baptist minister. I have to alliterate things. So, copy me, Coldplay, curiosity, conversation, coaching. All right, we only use alliteration because it works. That's all I'm saying. All right, so a great article is about a 9,000-word article, so it takes some time to read it. But if you, again, that image, anybody know what that picture on the top right corner is? Shout it out. Yeah, QR code, good job. So hopefully the image is clear enough that if you want to, you can get your phone out. I'm not going to be at all ashamed that you got your phone out during my presentation. It's Tuesday, so there's no football on tonight, so you're not going to check scores. So But scan that, and that'll bring you to this article. And in this article, one of the quotes says, if we want to prepare our kids for difficult times, we should let them fail at things now and allow them to encounter obstacles and to talk candidly about worrisome topics. There's a part of parenting that we need to allow our kids to fail in some ways. They're going to skin their knees. We can't protect them from everything. But after they make a mistake, and again, we don't want them to go off the cliff because that's bad parenting. All right? But if they're going to skin their knee, okay, what did you learn from that? How can we do this better? What does the Word of God have to say about this? What temptation did you give into at this point? Why did you think this was a better option than God's revealed will in this area? But we need to be able to have these kinds of conversations with our kids, all right? So that's copy me. This first one is copy me. Out of the 5 C's. Would you want your kids using their technology the same way you use yours? Where you use it, how you use it, what you use it for. One of the interesting things when we talk to kids, they say that our parents' addiction to their screens is even worse than ours. And again, if we're the primary influencers of our kids, and while they're talking to us about how their day went, and we're going like this, and then we ask them a question about how their day, and you're like, hey, put your phone down, I'm talking to you. Where do you think they may have gotten the behavior? Now, again, I'm not going to beat parents up because I'm guilty of this too, all right? But sometimes we got to look in the mirror and say, all right, because as parenting, we look at our kids and we see them do something like, oh, you got that from your mother. And it's usually all the good things, and the, oh, you got that from me is the things that I wish that you didn't carry on to the next generation, right? But we have these things, it's learned behavior. And if you've been in education or ministry long enough and you knew the parents as a kid, and then you have their kid in class, like, you are absolutely Chuck or Cindy's son or daughter, because that's just that's how they were when they were your age. All right? So this is how this goes. Copy me. A good friend of our organization who's tragically suddenly passed away last fall, Colin Karcher, said that showing your kid you love them is 2% effort and 98% just putting down your phone. We need to show our kids that we value them. And we need to, again, be modeling the kind of behavior we want to see replicated in our kids. In fact, USA Today wrote this article last year, Communications Time Bomb, Parent Smartphone Use Could Be the New Secondhand Smoke. So for those of you that grew up in a smoker's home, or you are a smoker and you smoke at home, and we've learned about secondhand smoke and the effects of it on, well, even though I wasn't smoking, I can have the physical effects from it. We're seeing smartphone use as being as damaging to kids' development as the generation before's smoking in the home. In that article, it says this: regular quality interactions with parents, talking, listening, singing, reading, and playing together, fuel children's language development and an acquisition of communication skills. And for children to get the brain food they need, parents need to be able to notice and respond to clues, smiles, eye contact, and later on, words, facial expressions, gestures, and emotions. With hours less of these interactions each day, a child's foundation for communication and social development is weakened, potentially impacting school readiness and creating a ripple effect throughout that child's life. We need to be mindful of the behaviors that we are modeling in front of our kids. So this is that copy me. In fact, if you want to watch an interesting video, you can search the still face experiment on YouTube. This is just like it's an under 2-minute video. And in this video, there's a mom who is interacting with her child, mirroring behavior, responding, all those kinds of things. And then mom gets her phone out and holds it. The reason why it's called the still face experiment is because have you ever looked at yourself in the mirror when you're looking at your phone? It's still faced. And so the child is trying to get attention and trying to get reaction. It'll look away and then re-engage and doing all of its tricks to try to get mama's attention. And then you see the child go from really happy to really dejected in less than 100 seconds. World Health Organization, American Academy of Pediatrics, all of them, when they do studies on neurological development of children, they have these 3 similar conclusions. Almost no sedentary screen time for ages 0 to 2. Less is almost always best. And look at number 3. How adults use tech impacts how they use tech. Made it into the top 3 responses. So we call this a dangerous environment. We call it the toxic trio. When you combine darkness, bedroom, and boredom, Whether you're 4, 14, or 40, it doesn't matter. You combine these three things, and you're creating a dangerous or a high-risk environment. All right? We're just scrolling through, I'm bored. I'm going to see more stuff than if I was more engaged or if I'm in my bedroom. Again, we talked about the 5 most dangerous places for kids to be online: bedroom, bathroom, school bus, sleepover, grandparents' house. Grandma and Grandpa, you have internet because if you didn't, the grandkids might not come over. But you don't maybe realize that you can get porn on your internet just like anybody else's internet. And if you did know, you have no idea how to set it up and to block it. And when you ask your internet service provider, they speak 4,000 different languages than you've ever heard, because all of the terminology just doesn't make sense. The router, the ether, the what? IP address? What? And so we're like, okay, it's too difficult, and we just pack up, right? The Word of God instructs us, fathers, that we are not to provoke our children, but to bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So that's copy me, co-play. And again, it was already mentioned this evening, co-play. Shoulder-to-shoulder activities open up bridges to conversations in connection with your children. Understanding how your kids use technology by doing technology with them is a wonderful window into their heart. Join them. If that means that you need to lose in Super Smash Bros. 150,000 times in a row, then lose in Super Smash Bros. 150,000 times in a row. That's all right. Join with your kid, because we don't want to have the majority of our conversation. This is our founder, CEO Chris, sitting next to one of his sons, on technology. We don't want you to get to the point where our kids only see negative kinds of things when we're talking about technology. It's always don't. Then let's show them how. Let's engage with them where they are. In fact, so if you have a gaming kid, we have a whole blog post about this. This is just kind of 30,000 foot. Recognize that this isn't a battle between you and your kid. This is a battle between your kid's brain and the game. Again, you heard Sean Parker say, the goal is to take as much of your time as possible. Video games are the same way. Follow the rating. Beware of chat. I've already said, if there's chat, there's going to be predatory activity. Make a plan, and then know your kid. The rules for Cheyenne were different than the rules for Ryan, which would be different for the rules for JD, which would be different than the rules for Silas. And they're going to all tell me that that's not fair. I'm going to say it's exactly right. But my responsibility is to disciple you, and I need to disciple you according to your strengths and weaknesses. We'll get to questions at the end because of time. And because we're only doing this, I only kind of have 60 minutes instead of 90. If you need to take a break and go get a snack and go to the bathroom, you can go ahead and do that, but the break is done. All right, so moving on. You missed your chance. All right? So copy me, co-play, curiosity. Again, this co-play part of it, what we're playing with, and maybe we have some of the apps. One of the things that I highly recommend, parents, is the 7-day rule. Now, the 7-day rule is before your child is allowed to download an app on their device, you download it on your device and mess around with it for 7 days. And yes, you can control what apps go onto your children's devices. But mess around with it for 7 days. See what it's like. And I would encourage you that if you're going to create a test account according to the demographic of your child. If your child is a 14-year-old boy, then have your account set up as a 14-year-old boy. But Doug, one of the big 10 commandments is not to lie. I agree with you. Don't lie. But you do need to figure out, okay, how is this app going to work for my child? What kind of ads are going to be filtered to my child? What kind of content do they think is appropriate based upon my child's age and gender? Figure it out. Because most of them are going to see, okay, you're not using this feature, did you know that? And you're like, oh wow, if I would have just quickly thumbed through this, I wouldn't have even known that you could do X, Y, and Z on this app. Or that this app is promoted to being used as this, but this is the way that my kids are actually using it. So again, conversations or curiosity, asking those questions, saying, okay, what are some of the apps that your friends are playing? What are some of the things that they're doing? What are the really popular games? All those kinds of things. Because we want to ask these questions, because if all of our conversations are negative or consequence related, what is the chance that our kids are going to come and talk to us and something bad actually happens from their perspective? If you already chewed them out for something that they thought was really insignificant, What happens when something actually bad shows up? So we need to be mindful in this and being curious, and that's really, really hard in that regard. But again, so we need to think of how are our conversations working through this, especially when it comes to apps like TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat. If our kids are going to be on these things, we need to be preparing them for this. Again, if you go to our website, protectyourguys.com, or if you download our app, we also have access through there. But you can learn about how to set up parental controls on Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, all these things. An interesting thing is TikTok does better than all the rest when it comes to actual parental controls. Setting settings that your child cannot change as soon as you walk out of the room. Almost all the other ones have parental controls, but as soon as you leave, they can just go into the settings and change the toggle, and it's as though you'd never been there. So you need to be mindful of these things. Again, it's hard being a parent, it's even harder being a kid. We wrote a blog post on why kids look at pornography. I need you to realize that not every kid goes to pornography because of the lust of their heart. Some kids go to pornography because their friends encourage them to do it. Some of your sons and daughters are going to pornography because they think that that's their sex education, and they assume that the other boys and girls are watching it, so to make certain that they perform appropriately in their dating relationship, they need to know what the expectations of the other person. Whether the assumptions are correct or not, that's the mode and how things go. This is especially true of our young ladies. The assumption that boys are, in fact, the first base, second base, third base, home run concept that we had growing up is totally thrown out the window. In fact, in many, this is only high school and up, right? Do I have any kids under ninth grade in here? Okay, so I'm using a term that you should have already known about at this point. Oral sex comes before kissing in some of these relationships. And I apologize to say the term, but I want you to realize that that's where things are when it comes to the expectations in the culture of our kids. And we need to be mindful of these things. And so we wrote an entire blog post on some of the things that are going on. Now, can it be absolutely the sinful lust of their heart? Yes. But their first acknowledgement and first interaction may not have been lustful intent. But because of the hook that sin gets, it becomes addictive. In fact, the brain that's addicted to pornography scans the same way on an MRI as the brain that's addicted to crack cocaine. It is powerful. We need to be aware of what we're battling here. Again, the great thing, though, is that greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And the power over sin can be had because of the resurrected Christ and the indwelling work of the Holy Spirit. We just need to be mindful of what it is that we're doing with our kids. And ask this question, does your child know beyond any doubt that he or she can always land softly with you? No matter what they see, no matter what they interact with, no matter how they slip up, do they know that mom and dad is going to love them, not without correction, without discipline, but is going to love them through this and to bring them along to more Christ-like behavior. Our kids need to know that we are for them. Just as pastors and school administration are saying, we love your kids, we love your kids, we love your kids. Your kids need to know that you love them as well, and that you would love them even through a confession of looking at stuff inappropriately online. Now, does that mean that their device may get taken away? Absolutely. That might. That's your decision as a parent. My responsibility as a dad is to provide, to prepare, and to protect. To provide my kids what they need, to prepare them for life, and to protect them from harm. If you ask any of my kids, they'll say, if you ask them, what's your dad's role? That's it. Provide, prepare, protect. Again, alliterated. Baptist pastor. All right? Conversation. So that curiosity of asking those questions, that's one of the things I love about being a youth pastor, is we go on road trips, and you can have the mutual distraction of the open road, and you can have conversations with kids that never would have talked to you before. The same is true in that co-play and curiosity. You're playing a game with each other, ask questions. Your kids, because you have a mutual distraction, your kids may open up about a whole bunch of stuff, and then realize after they're halfway through that you tricked them. But hey, you had a conversation with your kids, and that's totally okay. having this time, talk to your kids, grandkids, nieces about the awkward things that no one talked to you about when you were a kid. If you don't talk to them, then Dr. YouTube, Dr. TikTok, and Dr. Google will have those conversations with your kid, and their offices are open 24/7. My older two kids, Cheyenne and Ryan. Ryan rarely wanted to talk about anything personal with mom or dad, at all. That wasn't his deal. Cheyenne, in her head, out her mouth. It doesn't matter what it was. Just open flow of constant stream of consciousness with Cheyenne. And dinner conversations with Cheyenne caused Ryan to roll his eyes all the time. Like, are you seriously going to talk about this? Can I eat in my room? No, we eat as a family together. But there's a time that, again, Cheyenne came, and I work hard to be the top 3 resources that my kids come to. I'm not always that, but that's my goal. I want to be up there with Google and YouTube for when my kids have a question about something. And so my daughter, she joined, Cheyenne and Ryan, I don't know if you can tell, they're not biologically Rose and I's. A little more melanin in their skin than in Rose and my skin. We adopted them when they were 12 and 9 in 2010. I was their youth pastor. I was the youth pastor at their church, and they became orphans, and so they joined our family. And it's been 11 years, and it's been awesome. Led both of them to the Lord, baptized both of them, just the greatest joy in parenting. And Cheyenne, one time, she was maybe 13 or 14, came to me, and I was like, Dad? He's like, yeah, what's that, sweetheart? I was like, what's erectile dysfunction? I was like, sweetheart, you really want to know? Yep. Okay. Do you know what dysfunction means? You know, start with the easier term out of the two, right? Do you know what dysfunction means? And she kind of, yeah, I was like, you know, if something doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. Honey, do you know what an erection is? And you can tell her face is kind of like, I think I know, but if I say what I think it is and I'm wrong, that's really going to be embarrassing. And so she's kind of like, I don't know. I was like, well, so that's when a man's penis. She's like, hold on a second. And she ran out of the room. I was like, that was a dad win right there. Way to go, Dad. 30 seconds later, comes back into the room with the teddy bear, sits down on the couch next to me, puts the teddy bear in her lap, plugs the teddy bear's ears. Okay, go ahead. And we talked about it. She was protecting some sort of inner child innocence with plugging the bear's ears, but wanted to know. So, but we talked about it. I wanted to be a resource that I know that my kids could know they could talk to me and ask me any question, and I would answer honestly with them to the developmental level that was appropriate. All right? If JD asked me that question, it's a different answer. He's only 6. But my 13-year-old daughter, who at the time was going to a charter school, and actually, no, she was in a public school at that point. I knew that some of these terms she was going to be hearing and interacting with, so I needed to be able to be, again, that first line of defense and instruction, so that the curiosity gets removed because, oh yeah, my dad's talked about that already. I know what we say, when we say it, how we say it, where we say it. If I were to talk to my son Ryan about something that was kind of sensitive in front of all of his buddies, I would have lost all trust. Again, this is digital trust creation. We're trying to build trust with our kids. Be that first line of defense. We need to be mindful. So, talking to kids about pornographic content, what would you say is the appropriate age to start that conversation? Okay, I hear 12. Anybody want to go? Do I hear 11? Do I hear 11? Do I hear 11? 11, 10, 10, 10? Do I hear 10? We've written a blog post that may be a little less than what you were thinking. Now, does this conversation with your kindergartner use the term pornography? Absolutely not. Good pictures, bad pictures. In fact, when I talk to kindergartners, we talk about scary pictures, maybe pictures that make you feel uncomfortable, or things that are scary, or things that are inappropriate, things that are bad. That's how we talk about this, because most kids by 3rd grade have already had some sort of contact with pornographic content. And so if we can remove some of that, there's some great resources out there. Again, if your kids aren't rolling their eyes yet, then maybe you're not talking about it enough yet, but we need to help kids, and this is what we talk with elementary school kids. If they see anything on their tablet or their device that is scary, inappropriate, is a bad picture, those kinds of things, we tell them to put the device down and tell someone. If someone that they don't know is trying to talk to them through an app, put the device down and tell someone. And then I'm at school, I have one half of the room be to put it down, the other half of the room be to tell someone. And I point at them, they're like, put it down. I put it aside, tell someone. And they practice this. And this comes directly from my next door neighbor where I lived in Michigan, who worked for the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI. And it was his job to find people who use technology to harm children and bring them to justice. He would be the person who would crack the computers of the people who creating sexually explicit content of children and sending it through it was his job to find that stuff. A Christian man who would play worship music when he was in the lab going through all that kind of stuff, and had a circle of brothers that were praying for him because he'd be seeing the most depraved content. But he would say, have them put it down and tell someone, because if you delete the content, if there's something illegal that happened, you need law enforcement to be able to track it. If you delete it, then a majority of their evidence is gone. So put the device down and tell someone. And if you want to have books that kind of help in those kinds of things, I'm saying nobody should see or touch the parts of you that are covered by your swimsuit. Those are the ways that you can talk about that kind of content. These are some great books, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and the Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. You can find them, a link to them through our website under our resources tab. These are great conversation starters of you be able to have those conversations with your kids. Now, does that mean you need to start at 5? No. But I'm saying that the preventative side of things, starting in lower elementary school, is going to do a whole lot more good than the reactionary side of it when they're in middle school and coming and seeing it for the first time and not knowing what to do with it. All right? So, tricky people. This is what we call online predators when we're talking to elementary and middle school kids. We call them tricky people. All right? Does your nice son or daughter know how to walk away from a nice predator? Again, think of this situation. You're out at the park, your kid is next to you, you're seeing somebody you haven't seen in a while, and they come up and they're saying, hey, what's going on, bud? Like, hey, how are you doing, bud? Good. And then your child is next to you and they go, hey, man, what's your name? And if they hesitate at all, they're kind of uncomfortable, they don't want to share, what do we as parents say? You need to answer the question. When someone asks you a question, it's rude not to answer. And so JD is like, okay, my name is JD. Well, JD, he's going to say that his name is JD, he's 6, his brother's name is Silas, and he's 3, and they're going to say all their favorite things, his favorite dinosaur, Silas' favorite dinosaur. You're going to have the whole book on JD within 30 seconds. We're working to try to reel some of that in. All right, JD has never met a stranger. He takes after his dad that way. But does your son or daughter know how to say no to a nice predator? In fact, one testimony from a dad after a talk said that my son got caught talking with somebody he didn't know and ended up being a dangerous person. And when the dad found out he was talking to somebody, the son was like, but Dad, he was so nice. I didn't want to be mean to him. So in our parenting, how are we differentiating between a trusted person to share information and a stranger? We need to give them permission, otherwise they won't. When it comes to things like Snapchat, I want to let you know, if you have strong feelings about Snapchat, you need to have the same feelings about Instagram, you need to have the same feelings about TikTok, you need to have the same feelings about any social media platform. In fact, we have seen worse content through Instagram than Snapchat, and it's not even close. Well, Doug, Snapchat is disappearing content, so does Instagram. And in fact, because Instagram is that safe place, many predators will start there and get them to jump from Instagram. Instagram is the trailhead, Snapchat is the destination. And in the comments on pictures that have hashtags, again, hashtag is a filing system. That's really all that it's for, is a filing system for anybody to get any picture that they want. And when you're hashtagging stuff on Instagram and it's with your kids, and there's something that is age appropriate to the hashtag, they're going to be searching that, finding that stuff. And if you have a public profile and the setting is public, then there's going to allow other people to comment on that stuff. You're going to eventually have online predators exchanging links to their Dropbox and Google Drive accounts, exchanging content of sexually explicit images of children. And the reason that they can do that there is because they know that they have a common interest in this child's photo. That's Instagram, not Snapchat. We just need to be aware. That's all. Again, whether you say no, slow, or go, prepare your kid to be ready for the things that they're going to see when they come into contact online. Most kids assume rite of passage, or just part of having social media, is that people are going to send you unsolicited images that you are not asking for through direct messaging, Or somebody that they don't know is going to be reaching out to them. That's just part of what you have to deal with to be able to have the platform to communicate with your friends. In fact, there's a term called sad phishing, which online predators will do. They'll look for accounts that have kind of a common thread of depression or anxiety in the kinds of posts that the kids are posting. And they will go and come alongside to earn the trust of this child. Be against everything that the child is against, before everything that the child is for. Earn that trust, and all of a sudden, before long, this unknown person is your child's best friend, and then that person has your child hooked. And then it's okay, well, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. No, I'll do anything. Really? Okay. And whatever their end goal was, whether it's your credit card number or an inappropriate picture of your child, it doesn't matter. They have your child hooked. And now your child is left at a spot of saying, okay, what do I do? Do I lose my best friend and say no, or keep them and give it? Because we all know that once we give it, then it's going to be, if you don't give me more of this, I'm going to share this with all of your friends, and I'm going to make it public that you sent this to me. This happens all the time. All the time. If this is like, I can't believe this is happening online, I'm so glad that I'm here speaking to you this evening. If your thought right now is we're going to go home and we're going to burn all of the devices in a bonfire out back, don't go there. Don't go there. All right? That's that fear side of things. That's that side of that isn't building digital trust. We need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Be informed. Use resources like Protect Young Eyes and those kinds of things to be able to create safer digital environments for your kids. Again, some of the things I talked about, you'll find in our blog post about tricky people. Again, stranger danger in the digital age. All right? This question is so important, we put it in there twice. Does your child know that they can always land softly with you? We need to realize that in our conversations with our kids, that a soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. How we talk to our kids about this is going to have a major impact on the results that conversation yields. We need to be mindful of that. This last C, again, Kakini, co-play, curiosity, conversation, and coaching. So we made it to the end. Good job. Thank you for holding on and staying with me. Not just parental controls, but caring controls. They will always know more. They'll always find ways to beat us. But if we invite them into the process, give them agency, watch them shine. Any rule that they help us create is a rule that they're more bound to obey. Invite them in as your kids go, hey, what are some of the rules that you think that we have in the house that are just completely ridiculous? Again, you get veto power to say, I'm sorry that you think it's ridiculous, but that one's staying. Like, okay, this one is, okay, how can we make this better? Again, age of the child depends on that, I think it's dumb that I can only play technology for 7 hours a day. Yeah, but you're 4. That's kind of a pretty generous rule, kid. All right? Age appropriate, we got to work that. But also, what's interesting is once you get over 3 hours of screen time a day, anxiety and depression and mental health stuff skyrockets. At 3 hours a day, and the average amount of time that an adolescent brain sits in front of a screen is between 8 and 10 hours. So when you consider the mental health of our society, a lot of it has to do with what we are letting into the eye gate through our technology. That's affecting the heart. All right? So, again, technology is not a me against you. It's a me with you. It's a me for you conversation. One of the things that we had in our house, we call it a digital code of conduct. That sounds really formal, so now we call it a digital playbook. And this is something that is a document that if you want to see our suggested one, if you scan the QR code, I'll get out of the way. If you want to scan the QR code, it's a link to a PDF, and that PDF has a lot of blank spots in it for you. Say, hey, cell phones can go in these places, or it cannot go in these places. You can spend this amount of time, you can do this, that, and the other thing, whatever it is, but put it together, and then all users of technology, parent and child, you sign it, you agree upon it, and then in the middle of an argument, you have a third party saying, remember we agreed to this. And if you're batting up against it all the time, then maybe it's a rule that needs to change. Maybe it's one that is just evidence of where your child's heart is right now and struggling, and you need to make certain that stays. Well, whatever it is, that at least gives an opportunity to be able to talk through some of these things and have this. We need to hug our routers. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to wrap up quickly. Your router is the most unappreciated part of the entire cycle of technology. No one thinks about it until it's broken. All right? We need to hug our routers. Again, coaching, preparing our kids to play the game. Any coaches in the room, you know this. You don't go on the court, the pitch, or the field. You prepare the team to do that. And you help them, okay, you're in football, okay, when the defense gives you this, you're going to audible do this. When the offense do this, you're going to change and do this. And you're constantly preparing your kids to know how to read what is being brought to them and how to discern what to do and to act in a Christianly manner. Like, wow, that sounds really mature to be able to do all that. That's why we think 15 is when we should start some of this. But again, as parents, that's for you to decide, all right? If you don't love your router, we love Griffin routers. Read more about them if you want, but some of the defaults, they can force restricted mode on YouTube. It can set up a variety of different things based upon the device and have different restrictions and allowances, the amount of time, the kinds of sites, all that kind of stuff, all innate within the router itself. You don't need to have a secondary device. We love what Griffin is doing, all right? If you want to say, okay, but our kids need a smartphone, and they need to have something to get access to them. There aren't payphones everywhere. I grew up in a payphone world. We had payphones in our high school. I was on the stage all the time for choir or plays or musicals or dinner theaters, whatever it was. And after rehearsal, I'd call my parents to collect. Zero, then my parents' number. And they would say, this is, state your name. You recorded, I would say, Doug, pick me up. And then they would get the phone call, you have a call from Doug, pick me up. And they would decline it, get in the car, and come pick me up. All right, again, I was a pastor's kid, firstborn of 6. We didn't have quarters just lying around everywhere to pay for calls home to come pick me up. So what do we do then? Gab exists for this very reason. Their smartwatch or their cell phone, it's a non-internet, non-app environment, but it gives opportunity for texting, calling, and it's really pared down, but an opportunity to GPS, you know where your kid is at all times. This is a great option. All right? A great option. If you want to have a monitoring solution, we love what Bark is doing. Bark is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. They are a great organization in what they are doing. Titania Jordan, their chief family officer, is on the news all the time talking about some of these kinds of things. She's a great mom, and that's not a picture of her, that's just a stock photo. Or create a tech pack, whether it's Covenant Eyes or setting up screen time on your Apple device, which is the Hourglass, or Family Link, which is the Kite, or Gab, or Bark. Whatever it is, finding a tech pack to create a safe and digital environment for your family. It's not out of reach. You can do it. You can do it. And we have step-by-step guides on our website on how to do that. All right? So that is the Copy Me, Co-Play, Curiosity, Conversation, and Coaching. I'm going to let you come on up and say your final words. As Pastor Bloom is coming up, we're going to do this last couple of things. Our app, highly recommend looking into that. If you want to read about our apps or about apps, look at our website, protectyoureyes.com/apps. Our daily minutes that we have, the faith-based radio spots. Childhood 2.0, this is the documentary I cannot recommend enough. If you haven't watched this yet, watch it. Then watch it a second time with every child that you think is old enough to watch it with you. And do Copy Me, Co-Play, Curiosity, Conversation, and Coaching, all while watching this documentary. Highly recommend that. And then our download is our monthly newsletter. I've talked a lot. Thank you for letting me be here. On to you. I'm going to walk.
I appreciate Doug coming up here and driving over tonight, and like you said, he'll be out there for more questions as well. Some of these things, though, have really been brought to me as a youth pastor here, and as everyone else has stated, we love you guys and we love your kids, and we are just so appreciative that you are here tonight, and it really means a lot that you all that showed up. One of the greatest things, though, that we dealt with last year, we had a revival in our school, and a lot of these students came up and said, hey, I'm struggling with this, and it was guys and girls alike, and it was this stuff right here. And some of you took that, and I've talked with teenagers, I've asked them, I said, so how's it going? And what really saddened me was that they were even saying, well, yeah, my dad and mom said that they were going to check my phone, they were going to check and make sure everything's going well. And I said, well, how many times have they done that? And they said, well, only just once. For an entire year, they've only had one conversation with them. They only checked their cell phone one time, or not at all. And I think, again, like Doug's saying, it's sometimes going to be an awkward conversation. But if you don't have it with them, then the internet will. And they're going to explore, they're curious, and just trying to help you guys out as well. Coming from our youth pastor side of things, I've had teenagers walk up to me recently is why I was asking you and Pastor Nichols to really push for this, and I understand how inconvenient it was for you all. But even being here tonight, I believe shows them that you care. It's taking that step of, okay, we're really, there's something going on in our school and we want to help. And a lot of teenagers that have come and talk to me, they'll tell me things, and we have 7th through 12th grade, we have almost 200 students. And the amount of students that have come and said, hey, I just need to talk to you about something going on at home. I need to talk to you about something that I'm dealing with and that I'm struggling with. And they're like, I'm like, well, have you talked to your parents? Oh, they're going to be so mad. Or, oh, I can't figure that out. I can't figure out how to talk to them. I'm like, well, I'll be right here. You can come to my office and we can do it right here. And they're just like, all right. Like, I think they know, like, I know you're not going to kill them. But in their minds, they're like, they're going to cause me harm. Like, I don't know what it is. And so, to realize that and to realize, because in one sense, a lot of the times that we see here, and like Doug has mentioned over and over again, is when we realize that our child is struggling with something, we realize that they've gone down the wrong path, or they've seen something, or they've looked at something, or they've been experienced or exposed to something, then we feel like we failed. We feel like, in their minds, they feel like they failed, and everybody is feeding off of one another, and it becomes this big thing when really it's just, hey, it's a learning process. It's a growing process. And as I look around the room, and I've talked with most of your children here, and taught them in Bible class, and just looking around and seeing that, oftentimes we feel like we're failures. I know even as a father with 2 small children, and I've had to tell them several times, hey, I'm so sorry, this is my first time. This is my first time ever being a dad. And I have no idea what I'm doing. And no matter how many parent books I've read, no matter how many sermons I've listened to, I still have no idea what I'm doing. Because there's really no other child like my child. And there's no other child like your child. And how to parent them and do it in the right way and in the best way. And so this is just one of those things where we're trying to give you a tool. As I was thinking about this today, Thomas Edison, it took him over 10,000 times to come up with the light bulb. And when they asked him and said, do you feel like you failed? He says, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. And as I think about parenting, I think all the times and all the things that we've tried, and we keep trying, and we put a divide, and we put a blocker on, and we realize, man, that blocker didn't work. That protective app didn't protect as it should have. And to see that, hey, we haven't failed. We're continuing to press on, and we're continuing to get back up. And that's what it says in 2 Chronicles 15, verse 7. It says, "Be strong, therefore, and let not your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded." And 1 Corinthians 15:58 says, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." And so to realize that this does take lots of work and lots of time, and just to encourage you all that you're not failures, all right? And to realize that we are all in this together. We really are trying to just help you and support you the best way that we can. And I've had, what was really discouraging this year, I had a teenager tell me, they said, I was talking to him, and we were talking about some things that were going on, and I said, well, have you told your parents about this? And what did they say? They said, don't talk to the school. They said, don't talk to the school about it, because they don't want the school to have this perspective of them as a parent. And for us here, it's, again, we have this mindset that we almost expect perfection sometimes because of the demerits and the little things and the things that we call out. But to realize that we're all striving for the same mark. and we're all just really here trying to help. And it's not we don't have a negative perspective, I'm telling you, from a father's point of view, and I know Pastor Nichols' heart, and I know Mr. Martin and Coach Long's heart as well, that we all have realized that we are struggling as parents in this role today. And none of us are perfect at it. And if there's something that I'm sure you all can help me with a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I might can maybe give it a little 2 cents one day that helps you on something. And even if this tonight just helps you in one thing, then it was all worth it. And so that's my heart for you all tonight. One thing, again, let your children see that you're weak and vulnerable, and that they will see that and realize that they also need God today just as much as you do. Let them see that, hey, we don't have it all figured out, and we're all just learning. We're all just trying to do this. And so parents realize that there are still things worth fighting for. There are things worth working towards, striving for, and that your labor is not in vain. And that is such an encouraging for me to realize that God is going to give the increase. If I'm faithful in the small things, if I'm constant in those things that I know I'm supposed to be doing, then God will give the increase. And so that's my prayer. So let's pray, and then Pastor Nicholas has mentioned several times about these door prizes, which we're all anxious about. So, all right, thank you all for coming. Let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much for this evening. We thank you, Lord, for these parents and these students at this school. Lord, we appreciate the privilege and the opportunity that we have to send them to a place where, Lord, we can be more like you. And Lord, I pray that you would help us all to grow as a family. Lord, to realize that we're all in this battle together against Satan, against the world, against our flesh. Lord, and that we are truly trying to just laborers and working in this harvest, Lord. This is a crazy time in which we live, but Lord, you are the God of gods, and you are the King of kings, and you are the all-powerful Lord and Savior. And we thank you so much for who you are. And we ask all these things in your precious and holy name. Amen. While he's coming up, one thing I forgot to mention, fathers and sons, we have a series, it's called the Conqueror series. There's 6 series in that. And there's a sign-up sheet on the back. I have a name, cell phone blank, and then a day that would work best for you. Once we sign up that, what it does is it talks a lot more about this, and it talks about the neurological side of these things as well in our children. And it's more, like I said, it's more geared to fathers and sons, just because of the content and everything that's in there. So if you're interested, please sign up on the very back table, and make sure that you sign up, and in that way we know that you were here. All right?
Okay, Pastor Bloom's going to help me here. Pastor Bloom, pick a number 1 through 7. Number 4. And I'm going to close my eyes and point. Okay, $10 Roma Joe's goes to the Lynn family. Tanner, mom and dad here. Okay, and look underneath your seat. There's a yellow sticker that says winner. It's very easy. You don't have to look too far. There's nobody sitting in that seat. Look around you. Okay. It's for an Outback gift card. Outback Steakhouse. If you find it in a seat near you, you can get it. Okay, so that's another one. And then I want to reward, we got a winner, there it is, Alex Canal, Outback Steakhouse. Okay, I wanted to recognize the first family to re-enroll last year for this year, through our COVID year. The first people that got online and re-enrolled was John Riley and Caitlin Cole. So Cole, Texas Roadhouse. Okay, and then the last one is another number, Pastor Bloom. 1 through 7. 1 through 7. 1, number 1. They're not in alphabetical order. Close my eyes and point. Caroline, Zoe Caroline. I think I saw her dad here. Oh, that's a gift card to Land's End. There you go. You can do your school shopping for next year. Okay. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We realize we took a good portion of your evening, but hopefully it was profitable to you. We appreciate the opportunity to minister to your family. Good night.